Hi and welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you some of the things that we have been eating the last couple of months where we did the pantry challenge. So all of what you see now is something that we had in our house, or freezer, gardens and etc. And the first thing I'm going to make is some chicken soup. So this is some of the broth and some herbs and vegetables from my freezer, and then the two other bags were chicken that I have smoked and cut out into smaller pieces, so they're really easy to do something with. And this is some of the egg white bread, so I'm just cutting them out into 3 pieces, and then I'm putting some cheese on top and into the air fryer. And I'm putting some cream cheese on the buns. And then some garlic powder. And I'm also using a little sugar-free barbecue sauce, just a little blob on each, and then I'm just smearing it out. And then I'm putting a piece of cheese on top, and then just into the air fryer so that the bread will get a little toasty and the cheese will melt. And now onto the soup. I'm putting in some better than bouillon and some miso, and I have all of my broth in the pot already. And now I'm putting in some of the vegetables, and this is carrots, celery and leeks. And you can also just use some fresh vegetables, but I had this bag in my freezer and it needed to get used up, so that's what I'm doing. And I don't really have that many fresh vegetables anymore. And now onto the chicken. It's, as I said, it was already smoked, so it doesn't really have to be cooked through. It's already cooked through, so I'm just putting it in at the end, so it just will get heated up. And this is how easy it is. So the soup is already finished, and I'm plating it up in a bowls. And it's really delicious. You can put all of the herbs in that you want, and then I'm going to serve it with the egg white bread with the cheese on top. And that is really good. And now on to another day. I have 4 chickens here that I took out of my freezer a few days ago, and I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. So normally I'll start with cutting off the wings and then the legs, and then I'll take out the breast meat. And I will do some different things, make some different meals with this meat. So the thighs I'm going to use in one way and the breasts in another, and so on. And then I'm also peeling off some of the skin. On the legs I'm going to leave it on. Sometimes I'm taking out the bones in the legs, and other times I will just leave it in and cook them with the bones inside. But this time I'm taking all of them out because I want to marinate them and smoke some of them, and others I will just put in the air fryer and make really crispy and delicious. And this is another chicken where I'm just showing you how to take off the breast meat. And if you've done it a few times, it's not that difficult, and you can watch other tutorials on YouTube on how to do it that will show you a better way maybe than I'm doing it. So now I'm going to use some of the breast meat, and I'm just cutting it out into smaller pieces, and then I'll go to marinate it in a moment. And I don't have a recipe for the marinade, it's just something that I made up. So this is some homemade barbecue sauce that I made this summer, and it's really delicious, and I have smoked the tomatoes that's in there, so it has this really nice smoked flavor. And this is some homemade ketchup, and I use some xanthan gum to thicken it, and that is why it has this really nice consistency. And there's a lot of spices inside, so it's not just like a sour ketchup that you would normally buy. This is some spices that I made for a rub for some pork, pulled pork. So I'm just using a little of that in the marinade, and then some olive oil. And then I'm just mixing it a little, and then I can put in the chicken. And now I'm putting in the pieces of meat that I cut out before. So it's the wings and the two pieces of each leg. So there's two smaller pieces and two bigger pieces. And then I'm going to mix it around so that the marinade will coat all of it really good. And maybe you should put in a little more salt. In the rub mixture there was some salt in, but sometimes I just feel that it needs a little more salt than that. And then I put them back into the two bags that I had the meat in before, and then they're ready to go into the freezer and already marinated. So it's a really nice and easy dinner. Now I'm going to make the other marinade for the chicken breasts. So I have a piece of a chili that I'm going to put in some water and get it softened before I'm using it. And then in the meanwhile I'll go to make the marinade. And I also don't have a recipe for this one, but I find some inspiration in a recipe that they made on 1870s homestead on YouTube. Where they made some, I think it was some pork, el pastor or something like that. So I'm going to use a lot of the garlic, and I'm just reusing this bowl that I had the other marinade in, so I don't have to clean the bowl all the time. I'm putting in some oregano and some of the rub from before, and some of my homemade seasoning salt with a lot of herbs from my garden. And this is my homemade chipotle, where I also smoked all of the chilies myself. And some of my pickled chilies. And I also have this little rest of some orange marmalade that I made, and everything is of course sugar-free. So I think that in the original recipe he would use a lot of pineapple, but to make it less sugary I just put in some of this orange marmalade. And this is some cumin and some annatto. And I'm putting in a jar of this homemade tomato sauce, where I have also some carrots and zucchini and other vegetables and a lot of spices of course. So this is a really nice and thick marinade. So I'll just dump in all of my chicken breasts where I cut out into these smaller pieces and coat them all in the marinade, and then I'll put them into a smaller bowl so I can let it sit and marinate in the fridge for at least 24 hours, so everything will have a really nice taste. And now I'm onto yet another dish. So this will be kind of egg roll in a bowl. And because I don't have any fresh vegetables really, I have this pickled coleslaw that I made out of some of cabbage and some cucumber. No, not cucumber, carrots. And I'm just draining it, and then I'm cutting this onion out into smaller pieces and I will fry it. And I'm also cutting out some garlic, of course, and putting it into my pan with some olive oil, and then I'll just turn on the heat. I'm also using a little sesame oil because it's kind of an Asian dish and I feel that it gives it a really nice taste. So this is just the first step. Now I'm putting in the minced pork, so this will also be fried with the onions and the garlic, and then I'll put in all of the other spices. And I'm using some of this fish sauce to give it all of that umami flavor, and you don't have to use a lot. And then some of these coconut aminos. That's just because I didn't have any soy sauce, else you could just use that as well. And then I have this English sauce or Worcestershire sauce. And I'm also using some of that miso that I have in my little jar. And some black pepper. And some salt. And some sambal oleg, chili sauce. And I'm also going to use some of that chipotle powder. And then I have a lot of green beans in my freezer from my garden this summer. And because I didn't have that many other vegetables, I thought that this would also be really fine and it will taste really good. And because the beans are still a little frozen, I'll just cover them in the hot meat and then they will thaw out really fast, as you can see. And then I have my drained cabbage and carrot. So I'm just putting that in and stirring everything around. And now at the end I'm putting in some sesame seeds because I feel that almost every Asian dish really benefits from some sesame seeds. And I will also put a few on top of the bowls when I serve them. And this is how the finished meal looks, and it was really good, and I will definitely make it again. So these are some of the other chickens that I didn't cut out entirely. I just cut off the legs, and now I have made a solution of salt and water, and then I will lay in the fridge for at least 24 hours and maybe even 48. And this is some of the other pieces of chicken that I marinated. So on the top I have the 2 wings, and in the bottom there's all of the legs. So I'm just going to fry them up in the air fryer to get them really crispy on the outside. So as you can see, the wings are already getting really crispy, and I'm just going to flip them around about halfway, so they will get crispy all the way around. And the legs, I'm going to start with the skin side down, and then halfway I will turn them with the skin side up so it can crisp up a little. And these are the finished wings. And now onto the breast meat that has been marinating for about 24 hours now. And I just put it in my slow cooker, and this is some jackfruit. And because it's unripe, there's almost no carbs inside. So I'm using 1 can of this in the mixture. And now this is when it has been cooking all day, and there's a really nice sauce, and the whole kitchen smells so good. And I'm serving it onto some cauliflower rice and some egg bread with cheese. And these are the chickens. The 2 almost whole chickens, and the other leg parts I smoked. And this is some of the chicken skins that I had in my air fryer. And this is just the meal from the slow cooker. And it was really good and tasty. And this is just a leftover day, so we both have some egg white bread with cheese on top, and some of the egg roll in a bowl, and some of the chicken from the crock pot. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe, and go check out on Instagram Vester's Farm Life. Bye bye!